You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
I said to this man who's sitting opposite me, why don't you come on and have a crack at speaking to us on the podcast, not as an interviewee. Incidentally, I've interviewed this man on the podcast. It was one of the great interviews, not from my point of view, but the stuff he told us about the industry he was in was fascinating. And he was out on my boat on Australia Day with Craig Willis, and I said, why don't you come down from where you are? He's a marriage celebrant, and he lives up a bit north of Melbourne. And I said, why don't you come down and have a chat to us on the podcast? People would love to hear from you and hear you. So here is my great friend and great Greg Evans, who's come all the way down.
Sam. Yes, he came down the highway, and isn't it nice to be sitting opposite you in this wonderful setup?
Greg said, what do we do on the podcast? I said, what we do is we speak shit, and we speak it off the top of our heads. Sometimes, and people love us speaking about things they resonate with. And before I go any further, we have boating in common, and you told me out on the boat, this is how we're headed here. You can loot, you can wreck things, you can speed, you can do anything, but we've got to pay for the debt that this state is in somehow. Yeah. So the water police, not knocking the water police incidentally, the water police nabbed you for not having a life jacket on in your boat, didn't they?
Yeah, now this is on Lake Eildon, right? So we're not in really traumatic conditions of tsunamis or cyclones, and there's no wind and it's flat as a tack. And I had just launched the boat down the boat ramp. Yeah. This is a 20-foot boat. A runabout.
Yeah.
And
5 metres?
Yes, 5 metres, yep, thereabouts.
6.
Maybe 6. I was travelling at 4 knots, just going because you warm it up. And I would have been going 900 metres from the boat ramp to where I wanted to go. And
so we're not knocking the police for this because
no, we're not. But
water safety is paramount.
Yes, but there's a point to this. I said, why did you pull me up? And they said, because you're a single occupant in the boat not wearing a life jacket. I said, really? They said, if there was someone else in the boat, you don't have to wear a life jacket, but because you're by yourself, you do. I said, what sort of a life jacket? Like, can it be a ski vest? Doesn't matter because the boat's big enough. If it was a little tinny, then you've got to wear the prescribed life jacket, the round the neck one, all the time. But if it's over 4.8 metre, as I understand this, because I was given a lecture on the water before the fine, to say that because I was the only person, doesn't matter whether I wear a ski vest or around the neck because it's a substantial boat, like 6 metres. And I said, and they said, because, and you can't look up the rules, and it does not say that you have to wear a life jacket in a boat this size. It's because of times of heightened risk. I was apparently in times of heightened risk. Now,
we're not knocking the water police again.
The reason I wanted to mention this, Sam, was because most people don't know it. Let's just think about Lake Eildon for a moment, and all those people that go out on their houseboats, right? Christmas, there were hundreds of people on houseboats, and they go in to get the newspaper in their Malibu. So if you're the only person in the boat, you've got to be wearing a life jacket. No one does.
And what about scullers and rowers? Do they have to wear life jackets?
Well, it gets difficult.
I've seen them on the river here in the Yarra. I've never seen them.
Paddle boats and things like that. But I would suspect that most people on Lake Eildon, let's just talk about that. It'd be the same on the Murray, I'm sure. If you're the only person in the boat, in a big boat, 6-7 metres, up to 12 metres, you're in a position of heightened risk, and you have to wear a life jacket, or you're up for $350.
And that's what, so that for the privilege of being lectured by the police, who are not knocking, incidentally, not the water police.
But if you've got another person in the boat, don't have to wear the life jacket.
The water police could have said to you on this occasion, Greg, I'm not sure if you're aware that this boat is under the prescribed 12 metres, is it, or whatever?
Meters,
But if you're not aware of that, you must wear a life jacket. And could I give you an official warning? But of course, the debt has gone rampant here under the Andrews government, and we're just trying to salvage anything we can from the wreck at this stage.
Yes, I've just thought of a way to make $1 million. You sell signs that say rough surface ahead. Hey, how bad were the potholes coming down the highway today?
Well, that's we've got no money left to. It's all gone on the bridge and the tunnel, and because I hope in my lifetime I get to drive on the tunnel and the Westgate extension.
You're lucky.
I'll just tell you, I got my son Jordan.
Yes.
Was jet skiing, which I hate the jet skis, but I had one on the back of my boat, and
Your boat. It's like the Titanic.
I was on the bay, just trawling along at about 8 knots, and Jordan was going round and jumping over the wake and all that, which all the other jet skiers do anyhow. And the water police, a very nice gentleman, came out of the haze and pulled up and said, "Could I put it into neutral and just idle the boat and just have it float?" And the very pleasant gentleman said to me, "Could you bring that person over here because he is about to be booked for."
Can I guess?
Yes.
Coming within 50 metres of your
Yes,
vessel.
and I said, here's a moot point. I said, yes. I said, this jet ski belongs on the back of the boat. I davit. A davit is a crane. I crane it onto the back of the boat and it goes into its little cradle. How, if he's not allowed to come within 50 metres of the boat, do I get the thing onto the back of the fucking boat? And he said, well, I actually wasn't sure what his answer was, but he said it's dangerous to jump over the wake. I said, well, bearing in mind that the boat is going forward and the wake is behind the boat, he will never get anywhere near the boat, or else it's pointless trying to jump over the wake because the wake only appears when it's about 40 metres behind the boat.
So there is a fair bit of semen in you, isn't there? Like, I mean, you're an old salt from way back.
Haven't had a lot of semen in me, no. Haven't at this stage, but keep the books open, because the way I'm going, if you're through to the semis without dropping a set, come and visit me.
But you're using logic now to this water policeman or person. Yeah. What did they say?
And when I piped you aboard the boat on Australia Day, I welcomed you as Seaman Staines.
Yes,
and on you came, and so did Craig. He came on. Well, we've sent this down a different alley.
What happened? What was the end result of the?
No, he got booked. He got booked, and I went over. I drove over to the office of the water police over in Williamstown, and I could mention. I remember the man's name, and I said, "Mate, that is so ridiculous." I said, "He's my son. Which doesn't matter. He's my son, because every time you go out in the boat, all the jet skiers, because they're sick of going around in circles and trying to throw their passengers off, and they think they're hoping for a reasonably big boat that gives a wake, that they jump over it as if it's a water jump."
Do you not think that if he can come in at less than 5 knots?
Well, of course.
In other words, approach your boat.
Of course he'd come in at... What, do you think he's going to come in at 40 knots and crash into the side of the boat and I'm going to lift it on? He would come on, he would just
But they wouldn't
float
book
on.
if he came in at 5 knots. So they booked him for high speed within 50 metres. Yeah.
Yes. That's right. And he said, well, he's not allowed to get within 50 metres of the boat. I said, well, he's going to eventually, because I've got to get the thing back on the back of the boat. He said, and I suppose it was a speed thing. Yes. I don't know, but... and I thought,
there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Just
anyhow,
got a couple of fines everywhere. Now, you mentioned Australia Day, which is the day we were out on your boat.
Yes, you were.
Jeff Kennett, have you heard what Jeff Kennett has said?
Well, he said, if I was still the Premier of this state.
Yep.
He went crook. He was quite outspoken this week, our former Premier, Jeff Kennett. And he said that every Victorian council that boycotted Australia Day, he would shut down if he was still in power.
Or defund.
He would just shut them down. He'd change the boundaries and get rid of them.
Well, Greg, I'm going to get onto. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to get onto that because I went to a function at Government House yesterday. I was the handbag of Susan Stanley OAM because I'm not sure why you weren't there because you're a Australia Day ambassador. You wait till I give you a rundown of my impressions of what we went to yesterday for Australia Day being 4 days on from when it was originally Australia Day. But I noticed something in the paper about someone who said that they thought owning a house in Victoria had become ridiculous and that they had some property investments up in Queensland and they were getting far better returns for that there. And it said in the paper, it said in the paper that the man had suffered, the tenants who rent his houses and things have all the rights and he has no jurisdiction to do anything. The whole of the legal infrastructure is on the side of the tenant and the landlord has nothing. And you said you know the person. Did you not say you know the person?
I did say I've known the person for many years. He is known as the serial pest.
Is he?
Well, no, he's not. But on that show, The Block, he's the one who comes on and he buys everything. And he buys it for, $4,299,050.
And does he go through with it? Or
he goes through with it. He's bought many
why
houses.
Why is he a pest? Why do they? Because he prices everyone out of the market.
Yeah, no, because he brings dollars and cents into it. $4,329,000.56.
I see.
Just to upset people. But he's a fantastically generous man. Danny Wallace is his name.
You know him?
I know him. Yeah, I do. Well, actually, he was on Perfect Match. He was a contestant. Not many people know that. And he controlled a multi-million-dollar empire, and he's a very generous man. I might say, do you want to talk to him?
Do I want to talk to him? You've got his address. I'll drive around and have a coffee. What do you mean?
We can do that.
What?
Or we can ring him. Do you want to
ring Danny?
Jeez, I'm just learning about this program. I mean, I'm sitting in a chair here. I've never been here. But now you tell me we don't prepare anything.
No,
we just come in and we talk crap.
Greg, we can ring Danny. Does on the off chance that you get on well with him, if he tells you to get fucked, so we're on air.
Right. We'll ring him. Really? What do I do? I'm ringing.
Hello.
Danny, it's Greg Evans calling.
Hi, Greg. How you going?
Yeah, mate, I'm very well, thank you. And I've got... no, it isn't. I've got Sam Newman here. Say hello to Sam, Danny.
Danny!
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Oh, I thought Greg was... you've set me up. That's extraordinary. You said... brought up the fact that you had some bit of footage in the some stuff written about you in the paper, and Greg said, I know this man, let's ring him.
Yeah.
How lucky it was that I brought it up.
Yes, very true. Now, Danny, Sam was telling me that you had a rental property, one of the many properties you've got, I'm sure, and a tenant painted the bedroom black. Now, first of all, why would anyone paint a bedroom black? I mean, black carpet, black roof, black sheets, black pillow slip, black everything. And then they leave, and you've got to deal with a black room.
You got to black everything, and then they sent me photos of it.
My goodness!
Even changed the PowerPoints to be black.
Were they ticked off with you, Danny?
No,
this was their
fetish. They just wanted to show me how they'd made the house better.
And your response was? Get the fucking colour changed immediately, or I'll come down and belt you around the ears with a wet fucking lettuce.
Can't do that these days, Greg. The law has changed.
Yes, the law has changed. It almost benefits the tenant, really, doesn't it?
Now,
Not almost. Definitely does.
Definitely does.
Now, Danny, don't worry about the joint being black and you having rental properties elsewhere. Well, you are Greg says you're the serial pest, but not only in a nice way.
Yeah.
You are a celebrity, Danny. What do you do this for? What are you doing with buying all these places?
Well, he gives some of them to charities.
Well,
Sam.
thank
some
you
go to
for
charity.
answering. Thank you for answering for Danny, Greg. So what? How did you get into doing this? This philanthropic trait that you have in you.
I've always done philanthropic stuff, as Greg knows, and it's good to give back to the community.
What is your vocation? What do you do? Are you
IT.
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 Yeah.
Well, that would.
Yep.
That's
If I can speak, I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to speak, but I can help you a bit.
You noticed by that blank
Danny
look on my face. I had no idea what IT was.
Danny started an empire. Correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, but you were sitting there in your lounge room thinking computers are the way to go, and you started an empire to create programs for companies, because back in those days, you had to have a program to, I don't know even whether Windows was invented back in those days, but Danny called the company DWS, which is his initials, Danny
Wallace.
What, the S? Systems.
Hey,
Danny,
hey, Sam knows it. Sam knows it because he came down years
That's
ago
right.
to
You've
Geelong
met Danny.
and in Geelong to our company conference and spoke.
This is really embarrassing, Danny. I obviously should know. You are an absolute entrepreneur and star, and Greg's taken me by surprise.
Yes, I have.
You are a star, mate. When I said, what's your vocation? You've become very good at, an adept at mastering this new world we live in.
Yes. You remember when you came down to Geelong, Sam, down to the university and did a speech?
When? No, what year was that?
Oh, I don't know, 15 years ago now.
Who got me to come down? You?
Me.
Me.
Who? Me or Greg?
Danny came to me.
What did I speak about? Just shit, did I? What did I say?
Yeah, just shit.
I've majored in that. Tech, it wouldn't be tech shit because I know nothing about. What's IT mean?
Shit. You spoke about shit, and I paid you for it.
What's IT mean? What?
Information technology.
Yeah.
Fancy
You
not
wouldn't know
knowing
about
that.
it.
No, I know.
Sam, you got no technology in your car. I saw you a few weeks ago in that Mustang. It's got
Did
no
you?
technology.
Why didn't you say hello, Daddy? We're not old friends, are we? Here, me speaking to you, think I've never met you before and I have no idea who you are. But I know.
did say hello. You're at Warbeck.
I was too. I remember that. How am I going? I do remember that, Danny. I'm so sorry, mate. Well, you are.
And at the Grand Prix last year,
Oh, no, don't.
on the grid,
Embarrassing.
what is it, a party on the grid, I had to fly your funky, noisy old piece of shit into the car park.
Oh, dear me.
There you
That is
go.
amazing. Well, you've become a star, and
Well-
you go to all these the block auctions.
Well, he did, but because of the land tax in this state, Danny is moving on to greener pastures interstate. And would I be right or wrong, Danny? I don't know, but you own service stations in Queensland and shops in Sydney, and they're giving better return than most things in Victoria.
Let me tell you about service stations in Queensland. I've got a number of them, 7-Eleven petrol stations.
Yep.
I get 5.5% on average rent return versus houses you get about 2%, 1.5%, 2% in Victoria. They pay everything. I don't pay a thing. They pay the land tax, the council rates, they pay every single thing. And they keep the place looking good.
Let's hope we can keep electric vehicles at bay for a while then, because you'll have to put in the plugs.
Oh, no, they've got 20-year leases with 20-year options.
Fantastic.
That's
And the rent just comes on time every month and you don't do a thing.
I know
Comes in your bank account.
I know a person who has a property, not the property that this person lives in, but her land, did I mention her gender? Her land tax went up by 400%. Because they revalued the house and she doesn't live in it. 400, that's not 40, but that's 400%.
It's not right.
This is because we're broke in the city that we live in, the state, and we've got to pay for it somehow. I could give you her initials, but I won't.
Good.
S. Who's the,
I'm not giving her initials. No.
Danny, this is why Danny's very, very wealthy, and we're not, because he's clever enough to work out that 7-Elevens in Queensland give 5.5% return. That is amazing.
Yeah, just
And
rough.
the rent,
Go.
and the rent goes up every year by 4%. No haggling.
What do you reckon we're worth at this stage on the planet, Danny? What do you put your net worth at, or can we Google that?
We can Google
No,
that.
I
He's in the
wouldn't have a
top.
clue.
He's in the top 10. I can tell you.
The top.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
he is.
That's
He is.
extraordinary. Well, mate, if I ever don't recognise you when you're parking my car, or I see you at Lawbeck's or wherever, for God's sake, belt me around the head savagely, will you? Because that's embarrassing that I don't know you, or I haven't. What do you look like? You're good, tall.
He's a very good-looking man. And
I'm not as
Danny,
tall as you.
But you're smart. I got to feel. Well,
so
a lot smarter.
just one quick question, Danny. While the investments are in interstate, are you going to stay living in Victoria?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's getting too expensive to live here.
Hey, did the people on the block get ticked off that you kept buying all their
Well,
property?
I loved him for it.
Well,
Nah.
thank you again, Greg. Danny.
I love my dogs.
Yeah, Danny took his dog everywhere he went. He takes his dog everywhere, even in the Melbeck.
In the Melbourne, that's a Merc. It's Mercedes.
Well, he'll tell you it's not.
Maybach.
Maybach, yeah, whatever.
That's the upmarket Mercedes,
Yes,
isn't
it
it?
is. Well,
Yep,
is it a
maybe it's
Mercedes
just
Benz or is it a
It's a
separate
Mercedes.
entity?
Well, it's like
The
Lexus.
Mercedes, but they sell it as a Maybach.
Yeah, it's like Lexus and Toyota.
Oh, it's a bit better than that.
No, Danny, of course it's better than that, but Lexus don't like to say they're made by Toyota. They are a standalone brand, they say.
Yeah.
And do you know what Lexus means, Danny?
What?
Luxury export US, United States. That's how they thought they'll compete with the Cadillacs, and they said that's what Lexus means, luxury export United States.
Not
There
that
you are.
luxury, because my Maybach's got a bar in the back seat.
Yeah.
A bar and a dog in the
Bar
backseat of
and a
Maybach.
dog, yeah.
What kind of
Well,
word like
Danny,
this?
this is you're tracking square with anyone, man, woman, or beast, as we speak.
No, too expensive.
Yeah,
Stick with the
I
7-Elevens,
wouldn't let
Danny.
anyone get their hooks into you, a man, woman, or beast, or that'll be. I'd just be very careful about all that, mate.
Great to talk to
Hey,
you, Danny.
Danny,
What?
thanks for taking the call.
Yeah, that's lovely
That's
of you.
extraordinary.
No problems.
What?
I owed you one, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. You do. We'll catch up soon, Danny. All the best to you.
All right. See you, Sam. See you, Greg.
See you,
Bye.
Danny.
Bye.
Bye.
You're a genius, Greg.
No,
I thought you were
fancy that. I
speaking
mean, you've
shit.
shaken the man's hand, you've done a gig for him, and then you don't even remember him.
Would he be worth a bill? Would he be worth a bill?
Bill?
A bill. Billion. Half a bill.
Yeah. Well, you just look up that thing, that the business top 100. He'd be
that
in the
right?
top 10.
In the top 10,
Yes, Danny.
he's worth a bill. He got to be. If
Well,
you're in
he
the top
could
10,
be. I don't
let's
like
go
talking
through.
about-
There'd be
No.
Lindsay.
Lindsay's up there. Well,
Lindsay. This is in Victoria, is it?
yeah.
Well, the Gandals, Pratts, all the
Newmans.
fair dinkum.
Oh, well, we got research on this show, have we?
Oh, well, it says he's worth 120.
Million.
Yeah, 120 million.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty good.
pretty good, Greg. Well, so Greg, we went to an unusual function yesterday. Someone has got to wrest control from the people who started Australia Day and have now watered it down so much that it's become, this is my opinion, having gone, I've never been to Government House before.
Really?
No, I haven't. And I went there and there was all...
And Sue Stanley took you because she is a ambassador, life ambassador.
like
Sue.
you are, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
You weren't there.
No, I wasn't.
Did you get invited?
Yes, I did.
All right,
I couldn't
that's all
make
right.
it.
No, because you're living in the north of Victoria, and
Yep.
it's, no, I understand that. Well, fancy having a Government House Australia Day function actually on a day that's not Australia Day. On Australia Day, they had all the other
Flag raising
welcome to
ceremonies,
countries, and they had everything going on except at Australia Day flag ceremony raising. They had the LBGTQ, they had the welcome to country, they had the diversity and inclusion and equity parades, they had marches, they had and so we all Indigenous people had their invasion day and all that sort of thing. And we had to wait, apparently, for 4 days before the woke brigade decided that it was okay to actually dip a toe in the water and celebrate Australia Day. So we did it under the cover of darkness almost at the Government House yesterday. And the governor, very pleasant woman, she came out and droned on about all the dates when Van Diemen's Land and New Holland and New South Wales were discovered, and when someone came down to Victoria and said, we had all these dates, which I think was a subtle way of saying that we might change the date, and we're just canvassing it amongst. The people in the room couldn't believe it because they're all traditional sticklers for Australia Day being on the day that settlement came. Because if settlement hadn't come on the 26th of January, if that is the considered date, there'd be nothing here.
Well, yes, there would.
No reflection.
Yeah, there would. The next day, the French would have arrived.
Well, the Chinese hadn't got their eye in by then. But
the thing is, if the date was going to be changed, and don't forget, when you were playing football, we didn't celebrate it on the 26th of January. It was ANA long weekend, remember?
ANA.
Yeah, the last weekend in January.
ANA meaning Australian National. What's ANA mean?
Don't know, get the researcher on the job.
Besides Reg Ansett.
Used to be the ANA weekend.
Well, it used to be Reg Ansett's plane company.
I don't think we called it Australia Day. But anyway, we had a long weekend. The last weekend in January was the ANA weekend. It was around the time that Jeff Kennett was Premier. No, it wasn't him that did this, but it was around about that time. And
Ansett ANA.
No, it's got nothing to do with Reg Ansett ANA weekend. It's
Australian National.
But Jeff was Premier between 1992 and 1999 or something. So it was somewhere in that era, between 1992 and 1999, that we decided to stick with the 26th of January.
Why?
Because that's the day that the First Fleet arrived.
Yeah, Cook.
No, not Cook. Arthur Phillip.
Yeah.
Arrived at Sydney Cove.
Yes.
Not Botany Bay.
All
Cook
right.
went to Botany Bay.
Good.
Okay, so if you want to do something to tie back to that, you do it on the day, which meant the long weekend went. Because now, once you celebrate a date, then you can't always have a long weekend, can you?
That's all right.
So you have Australia Day on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and any date that the 26th falls on.
Yes.
Now, we want it to be an all-inclusive day where all Australians can celebrate, and so consequently there is much talk about shifting the date.
What to a weekend?
Well, do you want my opinion?
Of course.
My opinion would be if the date was going to be shifted, why are we still looking for some sort of a tie back to some ancestral thing? Like, let's make it our own. Let's make it Australia. Let's make Australia Day a day where it doesn't tie back to anything in our history or our religion. Or we all want a long weekend. And we all want it in the summertime. We don't want a date in May where it's freezing cold in the middle of the week. Why not make it the first weekend of February? First Saturday in February, just like the Melbourne.
Saturday.
Yeah, just like the Melbourne Cup's the first Tuesday in November. The first Saturday in February becomes Australia Day. In lieu of that, we do the public holiday on the Friday, which means every time the first weekend in February comes, we have a 3-day holiday. We have Friday to go to our location to celebrate. Saturday, we celebrate being Australian. Sunday, we come home. Now, that happens all over the country, and there's no tie back to any ancestral thing, any historical thing, anything other than being Australian.
Well, what a very reasonable proposition, Greg. I've never given it enough thought. This is why I get people like you in. I'm just a man of very small brain. And I thought the appropriate day to celebrate Australia Day was when settlement arrived up in Governor Phillip. And you say, well, what about we alleviate all the angst and all the nationalism and all the worry about Indigenous people and white people and people coming over? Why don't we have an all-embracing day where it conflicts with no one? And what a perfectly you've changed my mind in 30 seconds. I think that is a very reasonable and sensible thing to do.
And then we just celebrate being Australian, each and every one of us.
So, as I say, we went last night to the thing, and the two people droned on about the history of the country, and why someone didn't say that just as succinctly as you is beyond me. I don't know how you disagree with that. I'm trying to think of why I disagree with it. I thought, well, there was nothing here. I don't care what you say, and we pay great respect to whoever was here before us, and the Indigenous people weren't here originally. There was people from East Timor and Southeast Asia and people, so don't worry about the 60,000 years. It's been going on longer than that. But there was nothing here before. Let's just be honest. There wasn't. And but I think to save the angst about conflict, that is a perfectly reasonable suggestion, Greg.
ANA weekend, Australian Natives Association. ANA weekend.
Natives mean being the inhabitants of the country, or natives, people walking around with spears in their hands?
1871. They had different views on things back then, didn't they?
Australian Natives Association.
Celebrating.
Yeah, I think we'd call it ANZAC ANA. It'd be better than the Australian Natives Association. I reckon we give Reg a chop out there.
There you
go.
go.
Well, that's extraordinary. Well. Anyhow, so we went there. Everyone in the room, I would say, only speaking from what I observed, not asking anyone else to. No, but everyone thought, how ridiculous is this? Celebrating this 4 days after the official Australia Day, and if we have it on the first Saturday of February.
But someone's got to take a stand on this, and the federal government has. They're saying it's not shifting, staying there on the 26th, which means that the division is going to get worse. It's divisive.
Divisive, it is.
It is.
Well, it is. But do you think that would save it not being divisive?
If we shift it,
yeah. You think it'll save it?
Yeah, well, I don't see why it has to stay on the 26th.
No, but say we do what you say. Do you think people, Indigenous people and all the others and all the activists will say, well, that's fantastic. Let's all join together in the spirit of unity and harmony and get on with our lives.
Gee, you can hope that it happens, can't you?
We won't cut the legs off Captain Cook down at the Catani Gardens or wherever he was cut asunder by a
Queen Victoria
angle grinder.
Yeah. They didn't use a hacksaw. They used an angle grinder.
That's right. That's right. Because
they're now battery operated.
And, no one would have noticed an angle grinder at 4 o'clock in the morning. No one would have noticed that. And when they find the people who angle grinded Captain Cook to his knees, what do they reckon they'll do with him? Fuck all. They'll give him a slap on the wrist and probably give him a new blade for the angle grinder.
Oh, gee.
And they were going to melt it down, and I see they were going to resurrect it, make another one. And that could be a yearly thing. We'll put up a statue of Captain Cook down the Catani Gardens, and every Australia Day you can cut it down. It'll get you up and down
like pruning the agapanthus.
So, honestly, I did notice this. I like this. This is a woman. This is a woman who she's a comedian. Her name is Catherine Devaney. She's a comedian, and she said this, and this is what I found this humorous, because this is in the spirit of free speech. It just shows you, even though you're ill-bred and maybe have syphilis, you still can have an opinion, hopefully, in this community, and people can laugh at it. This is what she said. I like this. If I can just find it. Here she is. This is Catherine Devaney. She is a comedian, and she's been on a whole lot of shows. If I said this, I would never be allowed to go on a show ever, but she's embraced by every show. She said this: "An Australian flag in your front yard tells everyone you're only a couple of Bundy and Cokes away from lynching a wog, a slope, or an Arab." This is her opinion of Australia Day, as I say, and we wholeheartedly endorse Catherine being able to say that in this land of free speech. But I just shows you, if you're all bred and maybe have syphilis, you can say anything you like, and good on her. I find that humorous. Don't you find that humorous? Let me read that out again.
Yes.
An Australian flag in your front yard tells everyone you're only a couple of Bundy and Cokes away from lynching a wog, a slope, or an Arab.
Is that funny?
Well, I think that's funny, because if she's not saying that with a tongue in her cheek, she should be certified as should be certified.
Well, I fly an Australian flag.
Well,
I am patriotic.
And I fly
You'd fly something off the back of your boat, wouldn't you?
Yes, I fly an Australian naval flag that has a red background as opposed to a blue background. Now, I did ask Doug Hawkins to come in here. He's just texted me. Doug, I'm sorry for the late notice. I said, could you come in today? We'd have a chat to Doug, because Doug's just very well received. Yeah, but he said, sorry for the late notice. We've been going for 36 minutes, and he's just texted in. So that is late notice, I reckon. Yeah, and I did ask also Warwick Capper, the whiz, to come in. I thought he could...
Oh, you've invited some nice people in.
Well, I thought it's a three-hander. Susan Stanley, OAM, is here and hasn't said nothing.
Where's the cheese board of...
I want to ask, what did you think of the Australia Day ceremony at Government House last night, Susan, seeing as you're an official invitee at the joint? I was only just tagging along.
Well, let me just get one thing straight. I'm just the IT chick here. I just do all the background stuff, so I'm not on
Danny
the front.
Wallace, you could call Danny.
Which you did beautifully. No, it was fantastic, and it was nice to see you as my handbag. It was good to see you in your humble state there, walking around.
And were you in the big room that was so hot, that's not air conditioned? You know, the
well, they were well down on attendance. Because of it was 4 days after the fact.
Yeah. Why do you reckon it was 4 days after?
I'll tell you why.
So,
because they're so intimidated by the woke brigade pushing back on Australia Day being remembered on the 26th, to the chagrin of everyone else. They are as weak as piss. They are, honestly, they're cowards. And
but we do need to get a solution. We need, because
has to be a solution.
what about self-solution?
It was brilliant. I think so. You guys going to lead the field again?
No, I won't. Greg, I've
First Saturday in
vehemently protected the 26th when settlement was here. But if that gets rid of all the other stuff, Greg, I take me hat off to you. Not that I wear a hat. And so what we normally do, and we have Dr. Ben Fordham. Do you know?
Yes, the doc.
We call him
a fan of the docs.
We've called him the doctor because he was managing MD.
You called him the doctor, didn't you?
medical.
And it's stuck, hasn't it?
Well, MD, because he was managing Don. Who was...
sitting in this chair.
He was sitting right there, and Don snatched it.
Why did Don go?
Well, because... now this is well documented. Don was a fiddler. Fiddled and was a procrastinator, and he was an antagoniser, and he did it for 4 years for me, and I finally had a meltdown. And after he knocked the knob off the microphone, and he dismantled something else over there, and he ate on air, and he spoke off mic. He got the quadrella in 30 seconds of broadcasting, and I said, "Holy shit, Don!" And he packed up and left, and I said,
I remember one day you walked across the room there and out that door.
That's right, yeah, that's probably because of Don. Anyhow, Don's a very good man, I like him.
Yep. We all like him.
We're actually trying to work out, I could put an appeal out. I don't like to do it personally because I can't stand him saying, "Get fucked" to me, or something. But I could put it over now. I'd say, I wonder if Don, this will get back to Don. could Don possibly, if this gets back to you, could you come in once a fortnight, Don,
There you
or
go.
even once?
That's
Greg
it, once a
said he'd
month.
come in
Once a
once every month, and you could come in once every month, but fortnight would be good. This would halve the time that you have to leave your landscaping business, and you drive up, and
He could
you
ride a horse.
Wouldn't be astray.
He could ride in.
He could ride in. He
Want to be a cowboy, and you can be my cow.
wouldn't be a strain. It wouldn't be a strain on. Yeah, that's right. And his sister, she works down there, and all the horse manure. So
Speaking of manure, where is Doug?
Namure. He said.
How did that come about? Numnure.
Because Doug's dyslexic, and he just said. He said one day, he said that someone was speaking shit, and I said, call it manure, Doug, and he said, yeah, namure. I said, no, not namure, manure, and he wrote a book called Namure.
That's right, it stuck, didn't it?
Yeah, and you say to him, he said, well, why don't you ask someone to come in? I said, it's not ask, Doug, it's ask.
Yes.
So that's called spoonerisms. You know, when you put this is a classic spoonerism. Is I've never heard anything more relifulous than all my dick. That should be ridiculous in all my life, but people transpose that's a spoonerism. Doug's the master of spoonerisms. So when we're at the function, Greg,
Yes.
we do shout outs. This is how I got on to Dr.
The
Ben Fordham,
doc.
MD, managing Don.
Is he coming on today?
No, he comes on every other week.
He does come on.
He's very, very good. And he said, don't do the shout-outs at the start of the thing. No one's interested in who. But I'm telling you now, we're not going to do shout-outs. We have that many people that come up to us.
Yes.
How many people came up at that function last night, Susan, that said they listened to the podcast? So it's boring to read, not boring to read them out, but there's too many of them. So, but just on yesterday, I said I'll do this. This will be the last time we do the shout-outs. At the Australia Day function yesterday, we had Sean from Springvale. He wanted a shout-out. We had the Commissioner. Gavin Freeman. He is the head of the Fire Rescue Commission. It's not the Fire Brigade now; it's the Fire Rescue Commission. Commissioner Gavin Freeman, and Deputy Commissioner Martin Braid, they said they listened to the podcast.
Gee.
David Rayner. You don't know who Dave is, but Dave's a very, very well-to-do supplier of old parts for cars. Well, who is David Rayner? You know, you knew everyone in that room. I followed
know David
around
Rayner
like
through the Variety Club.
That's him.
And the Bash and all
That's
of that.
right, yeah.
Terrific guys.
He used to own Rare Spares.
Rare Spares.
That's it, yeah. But he has sold it and he's retired now. But he knows a lot about all the old cars, which I think
Did you ever go on a bash?
I went on about 13.
13 Variety Club bashes.
They are so good. If you ever get to go on a chat.
Well, no. I was the chairman of the Variety Club for the inaugural bash, the very, very first
Really?
one. With Dick Casey and all of those people, and I loved it. It was great. And that kicked it off, and it's, of course, now one of the biggest fundraiser for Variety Club in Australia.
Great cause. I was on the board for about 10 years.
God bless you. Yeah. Sorry, Sam.
No,
but that's the way this show works, isn't it?
No,
you just
that
run
was-
with the...
I agree.
It's like fishing with
Don't
Rex.
say
You just run with the...
Don't say sorry, mate. You do whatever you like. What we normally do, we reckon the people who listen to this have got an attention span of no more than what we've been doing, about 45 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to close off, and then we come back for segment 2.
Oh, is that how it works?
That's how it works. And then on at 10:30, we're ringing a man we're going to interview. You don't know.
What does 10:30 mean to somebody who's listening to this podcast in 3 weeks from now at midnight?
I was just giving you they'll be listening. No, they'll be listening to it this afternoon. But I was giving
This afternoon?
I was giving you an indication of how long. I was giving you an indication, seeing as you've got a watch on, how long it is before we're going to speak to the man.
Very good.
So 10:30 means nothing.
Means nothing.
But it does to you, and I'm trying to convey that information to you.
Well, when we come back, I want to talk about a South African-born tycoon.
Well, good. Well, don't...
You know who that'd be.
Yeah, Elon Musk. Now, it's Greg.
Yes.
You don't preempt anything because I want the
no
first
prep.
thing that I hear you say to be when we're actually doing it.
Right.
But we're not doing it anymore now. We're closing down. And well done for getting Matt Wallace. What was his name?
Danny
Wallace. Danny, you're a star. All the best.